This is my oratory speech that I did for state. Okay, I'll start. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. What is the capital of the United States? Washington, D.C. These small phrases ring through the hallways of classrooms all over the United States, but there is an underlying problem that these classrooms face. Everywhere we turn, education is under attack. Is the government doing enough or too much for education? Are students learning exactly what they need to get a job? Why should anyone go to college? It's too expensive. You know, we can make our own destiny without education. These days, education, the most important thing we can gain in this life, is being pushed aside for the sake of money and laziness. Education is an extremely personal topic, but today I will share with you what education is. My first point is what education is right now. Most classrooms these days focus not on learning or gaining knowledge, but rather a grade. As most of you know, the grading system goes A, B, C, D, and F. You've heard you are what you eat. Well, the education system says, you're a C, you're a B, oh, you're an A. Students feel as though they are defined by a grade. Test scores are even worse. With the way most colleges accept students these days, it seems the only important thing about you is your SAT or ACT score. Forget all about the content of your character. Forget you have integrity. Forget you're a loyal friend. No, we judge you on your test-taking skills. Even the students have the mindset that if I'm not going to use this in my day-to-day life, it's not worth learning. Recently in my math class, we learned sketching polynomials. I have no intention of going into any field that requires me to sketch polynomial. In fact, I would be perfectly content if I never had to graph a single equation ever again in my entire life. But I did it anyway, because regardless of if I would ever use sketching polynomials in my life, my grade required that I know this information. My teacher didn't care if I would never use this. I needed to know this for her class and for her test. My next point is what the government wants education to be. Current laws surrounding education demonstrate an attitude of money. Test scores mean how much a school gets for funding, grades mean how much a teacher gets paid. No Child Left Behind is a law that affects what a student learns, tests students take, training teachers receive, and the way money is generally spent on education. NCLB specifically targets reading, writing, and math, ignoring important subjects such as science, history, and foreign languages. NCLB in practice means working at the pace of the slowest student to accommodate the law. Everyone is to take the same test, do the same assignments, be at the same place at the end of the year. Everyone is to be equally prepared for college. So everyone is the same. Just another name on the roll, another potential moneymaker. Newly enacted policies such as the Common Core demonstrate the same attitude. The new math curriculum took all the math taught in the past, stacked it up together, took out little pieces that are similar to each other and smashed them together. So, when a student learns about polynomials, they learn everything about polynomials, eliminating the stepping stone factor. Another part of the Common Core is that you have to explain what you did and how you did it. So simple algebra that you've been doing since 6th grade, which has become nearly automatic, you now have to explain why you divided the 5 away from the x. With the way the government has designed education, it's nearly socialist. Everyone takes the same test. Everyone should be at the same place. In the movie The Incredibles, the villain Syndrome speaks of selling his superpower equipment to the general public. So everyone can be super everyone, and when everyone is super, no one will be. By eliminating the competitive leverage that the former curriculums had, no one gets to be super. My third point is what everyone wants education to be. Everyone has their own ideal concerning education, but one that is extremely popular these days is job training. Is education turning into job training? Obviously, the students think so by their statement, "We're never going to use this in real life." The other day in my math class, a student raised his hand and asked the teacher what careers other than engineering would require him to graph a polynomial. My teacher responded, well, actually, some quilters use these concepts. Now, this student, being the smart aleck he is, said with sarcasm dripping from every word, "Oh, well, I know what I want to do with my life. I'm going to be a professional quilter." So if education really is just job training, why do we waste funding on concepts such as graphing polynomials? Why don't we just do away with calculus altogether, except for those particular students who would like to go into engineering or math? Another popular attitude is that education should be easy and quick. Easy to get that precious A, and really quick to get that big money-making job faster. If something is easy, do you learn? I don't remember learning to read. It came easily to me. I mean, I can read now, but I don't remember learning. I know exactly what Scout Finch meant when she said, "I don't remember learning to read." You don't remember learning to breathe. But something that I do remember learning? Fractions. Fractions were something I struggled with for years. Until 7th grade, when I had a teacher who really cared that I learn this and helped me until the light clicked on. If something goes by quickly, do you have time to let it sink in? Let's just say you're standing on the side of the road and a car zooms by, a red car, but it's going so fast. Can you make out the make or the model? Can you tell if it's a Honda or if it's a Toyota? No. The same goes for education. If you do it too quickly, you don't learn thinking processes and concepts. My fourth point is what education should be. Education should be completely knowledge-based. Knowledge meaning no memorizing that will be forgotten as soon as the test is over. Knowledge meaning that what you know isn't based on a letter. And knowledge meaning that you can at least apply the thinking to your life. I've been taking Spanish for 2 years now. A's in nearly every class. But I could probably only say hola to you. Pen is boligrafo. Biblioteca is library. Yeah, that's about it. So have I learned? No. I've just turned in my assignments on time and done extra credit for the points I would most definitely miss on the test, with my 3-word vocabulary. If this class would have been knowledge-based, I would have failed. Or, I know myself, I would have pushed myself to actually learn the material so I'd be able to at least carry a decent conversation in Espanol. I think if education were more knowledge-based, we would have more students, who are more passionate that they are learning. Not really what they're learning, but that they are learning. My fifth and final point is what education is to me. Education, to me, is when the student-teacher relationship happens, understanding occurs, and when the light flicks on. One of the best teachers I've had in my entire life was my 9th grade honors English teacher, Mrs. Rice. She was the teacher for me, my perfect teacher. I had Mrs. Rice for 2 years, for both 8th and 9th grade, so I felt very comfortable in her class. The first day of 9th grade, when everyone else was introduced to the Mrs. Rice, they were very intimidated. Her teaching style was not the normal way of doing things, so they would get upset with the grade she would give because, oh, she didn't teach this, when in reality she did. Just because it wasn't in your precious notes doesn't mean that she didn't teach it. Many of my comrades wouldn't understand the way she taught, but it was perfect for me. Something Mrs. Rice always did was tell her students how much she loved them. She believed all of us were smart and had something to contribute to the lesson. The last day of 9th grade, when I had to leave that class, I was very sad. I didn't want to leave a class where I was loved, appreciated, and told I was intelligent by my teacher. Understanding occurred many times in Mrs. Rice's class. Like I said before, her teaching style was not the normal way of doing things. So it took time to understand what she was saying. But when you did finally understand what she taught, everything else fell into place. And you got to say the blessed words, "Oh, I understand!" That moment, right there, is what education is to me. It is when a teacher is caring enough to challenge their students to the point where they understand and they learn something. It is when a student's talents are allowed to grow. Education expands the mind to capacities the student didn't know they could reach. It is when they realize their talents. There is no test, rather, it is the test of life, where they decide for themselves what they are going to do. It is when their God-given talents are allowed to flourish, and they realize they have a chance in this life. It is when the brain and the heart connect, and you know you have learned something, and you're not going to forget it for the rest of your life. It is when a teacher makes the difference in a student's life. Education is not mandated by the government. Education is not a grade or a test score. And education is not job training. Education is life. As John Dewey stated it, education is not the preparation for life. Education is life. Thank you. Shout out to Mrs. Rice. Love you.
Yeah.